So hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and I'm just here, I think, in a village called Yakala, and thought to record a short Ovada for the internet. So I thought that maybe could start with just a little meditation. So we can lean forward a bit and arch the spine, and look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, wishing may all beings to my right be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings to my right be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side and our left hand side, wishing may all beings to my right and my left be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, and in front. May all beings to my right, my left, and in front be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, in all 4 directions. May all beings in all 4 directions be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, and above. May all beings in all 4 directions and above be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, above, below, all around in every direction everywhere. May all beings all around in every direction everywhere be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. And before we finish meditating, can spend a little time contemplating impermanence, how everything that's subject to arising is subject to ceasing. It's not me, it's not mine, it's not myself, it's suffering. And can open our eyes and do a short Ovada for the internet. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Saṅghāṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghāṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghāṃ saranang gacchāmi. So hope this finds everybody well, wherever they might be. And was just chatting with a gentleman at this kuti. There's a kuti behind me, which has been donated to the Mahasangha. And just stopped here to visit an Ayurvedic doctor who lives in a nearby town. And so then the house next to the kuti, they're the Kapiyakarus. And so the gentleman, there's actually more than one, that gentleman and his brother. And that gentleman comes twice a day. And actually 3 times a day to help out at the kuti. And so just now was chatting with him, and we were talking a little bit, and he was talking about he was going down to bow. Usually after people leave, when they're about to leave the presence of a monk in Sri Lanka, they bow. And he said, "Oh, my legs hurt." And he said, "I'm now 62." And I said, "Well, my legs hurt, I'm 38. And we got to talking, and we said, life is impermanent. And he said, "Yeah, well, there's there's young people who die, there's old people who die." And then in this neighboring village where I was just going Pindapat, somebody just died of coronavirus last night. I think it was last night, they said, last night or 2 nights ago. And so we got to talking about that, and then we both kind of left feeling, I think we both kind of felt happy about the conversation afterwards, had a nice little chat about maranasati, about kind of death. And so it's interesting, I ordained in a Thai tradition, and in the Thai tradition there isn't so much of a tradition of what they call Dhamma discussion. You sometimes ask the teacher questions. But in the suttas, we can see that the Buddha, he has these 4 things that, when they're rightly coordinated, they lead to nibbana. One is listening to the Dhamma, another is discussing the Dhamma, another is the time for serenity or samatha, another is the time for insight, and kind of cultivate these perception topics of meditation. And so different traditions have different emphases on these. And here in Sri Lanka, it's been interesting is that there's quite a strong tradition of Dhamma discussion. So people will start to talk, and then they'll turn the discussion over to the Dhamma somehow. So one of the interesting things is that almost any topic that one discusses, almost anything that one discusses has a kind of, what one might say, like a kind of Dhamma potential to it. So there's actually these kind of like 10 topics that the Buddha recommended that monks talk about. And I don't think I can remember them all now. But I think it's kind of, there's at least, putting forth effort, I think, and, speaking little, not getting involved with people, not delighting in company, solitude, various things like morality, concentration, different topics. I can't remember all 10 off the top of my head right now. But basically, almost any principle that there is, any talk that one might be engaged in, there, if it's talk about a football match or whatever it might be, there's actually principles that underlie whatever it is one's talking about that can be changed and altered and turned to the Dhamma. So this is one of the skills of some teachers. Some of the teachers that you meet, they have this ability to arrange situations. They don't necessarily say things to you directly, but they kind of arrange the situation that you're in so that you basically pick up on the lesson that they're trying to give you non-verbally. And they have this kind of way of subtly arranging situations. And in a similar way, oftentimes when one is kind of engaged in talk with various people, the talk usually, the standard definitions of talk in the canon, like talk of the well, talk about heroes and wars and women and whatever it might be, these various things people might talk about. And underneath all of these, there's a kind of way that one can turn or flip or at least bring up elements of these topics that relate to the Dhamma. So I remember there was a time I was chatting with another monk a while ago. We went on a walk, and we were talking a bit. I used to really like history, and there was this story. I remember reading about ancient Rome, and there was this time when there was this battle between Julius Caesar and another fellow named Pompey Magnus, or Pompey the Great. And Julius Caesar basically had advanced and taken over Rome, more or less, and he was basically going to become like a king or an emperor. And the old republic, the old democratic system, was being defended by this man named Pompey, who there was this political back and forth, and that's just how it ended up. It wasn't like he was a staunch, necessarily it wasn't necessarily like that it had to be that way. But in any event, Caesar came and kind of conquered the Italian peninsula, and Pompey left and fled to Greece, which was another Roman stronghold, and he had this big fortress there. And Caesar immediately followed in all of his ships and kind of crossed the ocean, and he was a very kind of dynamic fellow. There was this like huge thunderstorm at the time he followed them. He still went, and they didn't have any food. Caesar and his troops had no food really in Greece. All the food was held in this kind of stronghold, maybe not in Greece, but in that area where Pompey had holed up. And Pompey had more troops than him. So basically Pompey was sitting there waiting inside of this fortress, and all these senators were there. And they were trying to convince him, like, look, go out, we have more forces, go out and conquer Caesar, go out and beat him. It'll look good if we destroy him rather than just waiting. And he was like, no, we'll wait, basically waiting to starve them, because they basically took all the crops from the surrounding area. And just kind of waiting to starve them until Caesar's troops got too weak. But eventually he gave in to the senators and decided to go out and face Caesar head on. But the thing was that his troops were really inexperienced, like young recruits, and Caesar's had already been through this war where they basically conquered all of France and took France for Rome. And France at the time was this really wild place, and it was like very intense warfare that they were engaging in. So his troops were very seasoned. So they ended up winning. So I was discussing with this monk, and there's kind of a principle that one can clearly see, which is more or less that that if one is kind of trying to do some things, it's best to wait until the time is ripe to do them. It's kind of it's better if one is waiting until basically the karma or whatever it is behind it ripens. So one can discuss this as a kind of interesting fact in history, interesting fact of war between Pompey and Julius Caesar. Or one can discuss it and turn that conversation over to the Dhamma, turn it over to a topic of talk that links up with the Buddha's teachings. In the time of the Buddha, all of the stories that he told were, he used many examples, many metaphors, many various things from the society. These were drawing the Dhamma principles and what he saw around him from the society. So one of the skills that people can try to develop, or one of the beneficial skills, is this skill in kind of discussing the Dhamma. This kind of skill is actually here. Many people in Sri Lanka are quite good at it. And one of the skills is this ability to be able to notice the principles of the Dhamma that exist in the world around one, the principles of the Dhamma that are there to be observed, that one can take examples from the existing world and see this is how the Buddha's teachings apply, this is how they work in practice. And so when one does this, one can kind of try to learn to subtly turn conversations over to the Dhamma, turn them away from whatever worldly topic it might be and link them up with the Buddha's teachings. And if one does this frequently, whatever one tends to talk about, this tends to be what spins in one's mind after one finishes speaking. So if one brings up these Dhamma principles, even if it's one that one's heard many times before, one talks a little bit about Maranasati, about how everybody is subject to passing away. We're both going to pass away, and this person in this village passed away. It brings up this quality of heedfulness. It's a reminder. It's kind of, people just had this conversation. That's what tends to echo in the mind afterwards. So the Buddha recommends that when monks come together, they do one of two things. Either they keep noble silence, or they talk about the Dhamma. Keeping noble silence is extremely important. There's also this time when it's appropriate. These kind of things that are appropriate when they're coordinated rightly, they culminate in the deathless. It's kind of listening to the Dhamma, discussing the Dhamma, and the time for serenity, and the time for insight. So if one gains skill in these things, a skill in listening to the Dhamma, also a skill in discussing the Dhamma, a skill in turning the topics of one's conversation towards the Buddha's teachings, in examining the principles behind them, and in bringing them up frequently, then these become a basis for one's perception. They become a spur for one's practice, and they help in one's development. They can help in one's development of serenity and insight for the sake of ripening in Nibbana. Okay, so leave that for reflection, and wishing everybody all the best and all the blessings of Dhamma practice.